Welcome everyone to the CodeStack meetup. My name is Matthew Mendoza and Leo Manos. And today we'll be covering how to create responsive design for mobile. So what is responsiveness? Well, responsiveness is a way of designing your website so it may be accessible through multiple devices. Many big websites use responsiveness. And the way that you can check responsiveness is by clicking on any website, right-clicking on the site, hitting the inspect button, and then from here, you want to go and hit the toggle device toolbar. Here, now we're able to adjust the screen sizes as we please and see what it looks like. But if you want to, you can also check it on what it looks like on other devices, such as the iPhone, iPad, and many others. So why is this important? Well, when it comes to designing websites, the main idea is to create the website for desktop devices. However, the key thing to remember is that when people navigate the site or navigate websites, they're mainly going to do it through mobile devices. And because of that, if your website isn't responsive, you could miss out on a bunch of potential viewers. Or if you're making a website for a business, it could lead to missing out on potential clients as well. And now, how do we go about creating a responsive website? Well, we could get into CSS media queries, but why do that when we can take advantage of the Bootstrap framework? And the key thing to that are going to be breakpoints. On here, we have our table, we have our types of breakpoints, we have our dimensions that define these breakpoints and these class infixes. These are the things that we'll be adding to our classes that are compatible with breakpoints to be able to manipulate them on different screen sizes. And has everyone downloaded the starter file from the GitHub? All right. If everyone's all set up, let's go and hop into the worksheet. So in our first example, what we want to go over is column resizing. This is going to be the most common use for Bootstrap responsiveness. So as on your guys' worksheets, all these columns are going to be 4s. And our goal is to maintain this column size for a large screen, but manipulate it as the screen size gets smaller. So first things first, we're going to go and change our base column size for the small screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to a 6, 6, and 12. And then we're going to do the same here, 6, 6, and 12. And now let's go and introduce our responsive classes. So for this, when it comes to columns, we're going to, after calling our column, we're going to insert our breakpoints. So we're going to do column dash, and in this case, let's go ahead and do medium, which is defined by MD. And as for our size, we're going to go ahead and do 2. And what this is saying is that as soon as we reach a medium-sized screen, we want our column size to go to a size of 2. Next up, we're going to go and put a second class. This is going to be our initial size of the column. So we're going to go and do column dash LD for our large screen, and then we're going to put 4. So now when once the screen gets to a large screen, this column size will now go to a 4. And so now what we're going to do, we're going to go and copy and paste this into all of our columns. And so if you go to a large screen, it's like it was on the like we had it initially. But if we zoom in, we can see the columns begin to change as the screen size is changed. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I have one.
Mhm.
When you have the different sizes between like medium, large, and small, is it dictating from that point down or that point up by screen size? Because I know that the sizes pertain to screen size, but when we're trying to make it bigger or smaller, do we want to consider from that screen size and above or that screen size and below?
We want to consider from the screen and above, because for our small, like, are you talking like for like initial column size, like how we start with a column 6 and then we kind of change it as we go up?
That's what it appears to do, and that's what I was checking. Is it going to be a size 4 from large up or large down?
Oh, so it's going to be a size 4 from to down.
Okay, so it's from that size and below. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
So I'm not sure what I did wrong from GitHub. When I download the zipped code, it doesn't give me the .vs code folder. It just gives me the other 3 files.
Is it the HTML, CSS?
Yeah, that's the part that I'm getting. That's the only part I've got.
Oh, those are the only files that you'll need. You can ignore the VS Code part.
Oh, okay. Because the screen that you're sharing, that's not is that the index? Oh, it is.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh, one more. Can you send the zip file again?
Oh, okay, for sure, man.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're perfectly fine. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
So
Right.
can you explain one more time what this is doing exactly?
So what this is doing is that on the various screen sizes, we're manipulating the column sizes. So let's see. So, and the way that the class is going is that initially it's going to be a column 6, as we've defined right here. But then then the site's going to check, is it a medium? Is the is the screen size over medium? And in this case, it is, but that's going to be overruled by this class right here, the large column, because as soon as we get into the large screen, it's now going to become a 4. Did that answer the question, or would you like a little bit more clarification?
I think that answers it, but when you're changing your screen size, you just zooming in and zooming out or what?
Yeah, for right now, I'm just zooming in, zooming out, as if I did the inspect, it would automatically go to like a medium or a small.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I understand. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You can just zoom in, you can zoom in if you'd like, if you just don't want to open up the inspect.
Yeah, when I zoomed in, it didn't change.
If your page isn't in full width as well, you can drag the corner of it and make that page smaller manually, and you'll see the adjustments as well as you do that.
Got it. I'll have to zoom into like 200% to see the changes. All right, I'm good.
Is everyone ready to go on to the next example? All right. So on the next example, we're going to be covering responsive hiding and displaying items. If anyone has wonders what that is, this is going to revolve around the Bootstrap class d-none and d-block. D-none will hide all your elements that have this class appended to it. D-block will display all your elements that have this appended to it. Though it isn't much on its own, but it really begins to shine as soon as you add breakpoints to it. So going back to our example, we have 2 columns. One that says, now you see me, another one that says, now you don't. And what we want to do is that on large screen, we want to display now you see me. And then anything lower than that, we want to go ahead and display now you don't. So going to our code, what we want to enter for the first part is d-none. And I'll explain this in here in just a bit. And then the next thing we want to enter is d-lg-block. And what this is saying is that I don't want this element to show up until we get to the large screen. And then adding to our second part, what we want to do is do only D-LG-none. And what this is saying for our now you don't column is that as soon as the screen size gets too large, I want to hide this element. So if we go back to our web page, either zoom in or mess around with the inspect, you can see now that we can change what column is displayed on our screen. And this is a very useful item, as if you wanted very unique items for both for mobile, or if you want a unique item for the desktop version, this is how you would do it. Or if you have any trouble with trying to make something responsive, you can just get rid of it completely and create a new one and have that display on mobile or on desktop if you'd like. Anybody have any questions here? All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next section. The next one's going to be responsive order. If anyone's if anyone doesn't know what this is so essentially what this is going to be is that we'll be able to manipulate the order of our columns within our rows. And how you would do this in the class, you're going to enter order dash the number. So let's go ahead and do 0. Actually, let's go and do this instead. We're going to do 1. And let's go ahead and do order 0. As you can see, now our first is tossed all the way to the back and our second is now in front. And the reason why the first is all the way in the back is because columns, when you mention a column, it initially becomes an order 0. And another thing I need to mention is that the lower the number is, the higher in the higher position is going to be in the row. The column's going to be in the row. And obviously, if the number is higher, it's going to be more far back. In this case, since our first column is an order 1, it's going to be sent all the way in the back. But let's go and hop into the responsiveness version. Just like columns, before you mention the number, you want to go and put in your breakpoint. Our goal here is that for the large screen, we're just going to go and mess around with the order. But in the end, if we were to zoom in or go on small screen, we want the order to be like how it is right now. So let's go and put order dash LG dash, and let's go with 5. Also, another thing is that when it comes to order, it must be a number between 0 and 5. If it goes any higher, the order won't change at all for that item. And so for our next column, we're going to do order dash LG dash 3. We're going to do order dash LG dash 4. Order dash LG dash 0. I'm going to do order dash LG dash 1. And the final one, we're going to do order dash LG dash 2. As you can see, now our columns are all mixed up now. But if we zoom in, now they're back to what they used to be. And basically what this code is saying is that once our screen becomes large, then it's going to go and implement these order changes. Does anyone have any questions on this example?
Nah, I think I'm good.
Can you use a slider to show the transition? Oh, the slider in the inspect. Okay. Is this what you're talking about, Brian?
Yeah. If you slowly go from one size to the other, you can watch it jump. It's kind of cool.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions? All right. we'll go ahead and hop on to the next section. So another cool thing you can do with responsiveness is that you're able to manipulate the padding and margin of an item using the Bootstrap class version. And for this, it's just going to be relatively simple. It's going to be like how we did the last few ones. We're going to call the class. So in this case, for our first item, we want the padding to increase on large screen. So what we're going to go and do for this one is that we're going to do padding dash LG dash 5. Oh, wrong item. We're going to go and do this here. And then for our next column, we want to go and increase the margin top on large screen as well. So we'll go and do that real quick. We'll do we'll do a margin top dash LG dash 5. And just to show you how it looks on a full screen, using the inspect, this is how it looks. When you transition from large to anything smaller than that. And going on to our final example, we're going to go and talk about responsive containers. This one's going to work a lot different than we've done with the previous ones, just because in this case is that it's going to work with container fluid, but we're not going to mention the fluid part. And also, when we define our breakpoint, our container is going to be fluid up until that point. So to kind of show an example, let's go ahead and let's do a container dash large. Let me go to our large screen. Not much has changed. It's just a usual container. But if we were to decrease the size of the screen, it becomes fluid. As you can see that this whole container right here is still has the padding on the sides. But for this container that we've initiated as a container dash large, it's now fluid. And it'll be like that for anything below large. And then as soon as you go back to that large threshold, then it's going to go back to being a regular container. And this is relatively useful for, say, if you want a website with everything kind of more, nicely in the middle, for like, say, those people that have like the really large monitor screens. But for mobile, you don't want that, all your content squeezed in. You want that to be fluid, to stretch across the width of the screen. Does anyone have any questions or would like me to go over any previous examples?
So I think I missed the part, and we just added large to the container. That's it.
That's pretty much about it. We don't have to add fluid or anything. We just define it as large, and the container will be fluid up until that point. So like if I were to do let's do SM for right now. Let's see. SM. Actually, I don't think that's a good example because then it's just going to be a regular container all throughout.
I thought fluid reaches across the entire screen.
Yes, it does. But using the responsiveness version, it's going to go across the screen up until it reaches its up until it reaches its breakpoint.
Oh, which is large, we set it to large, right?
Yeah, like this is probably a good going back to large. This is like a good example of it. As you see, it stretches across the screen. I believe this is a medium screen size, but if we were making it any bigger, you can see that it's no longer fluid. It's no longer stretching across the screen. And there's multiple other examples of using breakpoints inside classes. But I do want to cover these as, at least for these first three, these are going to be the main ones you guys are going to use for your future projects. All right. Any other questions? All right, thus concludes my presentation.
Right on. Way to go, Mendoza. Everybody give him a little round of applause. Very nice lecture. I like the color coordination. That was really nice. Helps break it down a lot. I'd say we could probably just take a break from here at this point, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I'm setting up a repository right now for my file, so I'll send you guys a link to that in just a minute, and then we can get going with my half.
I'll go and be right back.
All right, thanks for joining us here in the night course class. This is part 2 of our responsiveness lecture. My name is Leo Manzo. I'm an intern over at CodeStack Academy for the media team. And I'm going to be diving in a little bit deeper into the lecture Mendoza was giving on how responsiveness works and what we can do with it. So if you've all got your files set up, you should be somewhere where you pull it up here and you see this really broken page. Am I on the right one here? Can you see my screen? Yep.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
So you should see this really broken page. It's supposed to be a flower shop, and we really want to just make it just responsive and look good. So we can see here when it goes, I mean, it doesn't look too bad now, right? It's got some layout. I mean, it does look bad, but in terms of responsiveness, things being weird, it's kind of doing its job in desktop. But once we hit mobile, we can see it just really starts to break. Columns start moving around everywhere. Pictures are getting wacky. So we really just want to fix that up for when the user looks at it on their phone, make sure everything looks right. And this will be our end goal here. So we want the user to see something like this on desktop, which is a little more responsive and cleaned up. And then when they go to mobile, things won't be so broken. They're still going to get all their content. Things will be organized correctly. You guys were asking about the D block earlier. You'll see some of that work a little bit in here. And then you'll get your columns lined up, and the organization of the about is a little bit better. So let's take a look at the CSS for the broken side and see what we're kind of looking at here to start with. Let me move this tab really quick. So we can see that we're starting with a container. It's got our nav bar, and it's got a logo in it. It's got a couple of links, and it's got a button. There are no rows or columns, so that's good to check out for. Always just want to dive into your page and make sure you're understanding what you're looking at before you even try to fix it. So right now our nav bar is not stretched out all the way. Our hero image isn't showing, and our button needs to be lined up across the top like we have it here. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to look for our responsiveness logo, and it's literally classed as logo. And we're going to go into the styles and find it there. And there we see we are targeting it. We are giving it a font family, we are giving it a font size, and we are giving it a color. But somehow the color is not being adjusted there. And that is due to a Bootstrap element that is giving it a pre-existing color or style. And some Bootstrap elements just come with that. So you have to definitely look out for things like that. Make sure you get rid of that pre-existing element or class name, and then you can then style from there. So that would end up being navbar brand, which is giving it a black color. If we were to remove that, we can now see our logos, the right color, cool. Now we want to get this spaced out like this, how we have it here, all the way across. So that's going to be on the hero image itself, because the hero image will target this entire container. So to do that, we are going to actually throw our hero on here. It is called hero. And we've got padding right 0, padding left 0. All nav bars do come with a little bit of padding, just a heads up, and you are always going to want to just remove that padding if you always want it to go across. The nice thing about nav bars is that they are always responsive. So you never really have to adjust the nav bar. Once it hits mobile or tablet, it will immediately go into what's called collapse, which you see here. And it will throw all of your elements that are in collapse into that there, and you don't really have to worry about the responsiveness of a nav bar. So that's really nice. So now we're targeting our hero in here. So let's go check out where hero is in here. I've got him commented out for now, so you guys don't have to follow all of my typing. You just got to copy and paste, really. So I found hero here at 33 and styles. You're going to copy and delete the entire thing. And then you're going to go up where you're not in comments anymore, right after the BG light. Then you're going to paste that right there. So what I'm going to do is comment these out and then go one by one to show you guys what each of them do. So we got max width at 100. And what this is going to do is give not only our hero image, but our entire nav bar the width of 100% of what it is containing. So it will stretch all the way across what it is in, the entire container. And that will look something like this. Now we've got our nav links as well that are a little bit to the right or left here still. So we can actually pull out, it's called nav bar nav. And you will see it here if you ever need to adjust them. It is nav bar nav. It is the entire UL class. It is targeting each of those elements. We want to move those right. So pull that out, put that in. Oh, I see. I commented out this on accident. Okay. So we've got our nav bar nav, and it's justified content end. What that's going to do is that's going to push those all the way to the right. So now we've got our nav bar set up how we want it, and it's responsive. And then we can now worry about our hero image. So we'll go back to that class there, and we'll continue adding what we've got. So we've got height at 90 VH, and VH is a preset Bootstrap text sizer that will automatically adjust your page for VH would stand for viewport height, and it will adjust it to the viewport height of your entire screen. So any screen you are on, it will cover up 90% of this. So now we see we've got about 90%. If we wanted it to cover the whole thing, we could say 100. And you can see that adjustment there. It will now cover this entire screen. Any screen you're on, it will do that. Then we've got our background position center. And what this is doing is making sure that no matter how big our image is, it will always target the center of the picture to display. It will never show you the top left, the top right. It will always make sure you're staying centered to your true image. And then we've got our background repeat, no repeat. Our background is not repeating here, but if the column were a bit smaller and the image were too big, it would then start showing you multiple rows of the image, and you really don't want that. So just to be safe on all of your screens, I always put no repeat for all of my images. Oops. And then we want our background size to cover. And what that's going to do is adjust your image to give you a more true size to what you want to display. So it will try to fit your content into that column or container much better than how it was fitting. There you see the example live. So that looks pretty good. It looks how we wanted it here. We've got our button to worry about. So that will be called BTN location, and we can add that here on our HTML. Yep. So add the class BTN location to our click to blossom button, and we can find it here. Let me delete all this before I get confused. Then we can add that into our styles. And it is literally just display flex, which you guys have all used, and it's going to give it the entire column width. Then it's going to justify content center, which is going to put the text in the center. I'll show you what it looks like without it, just so you can see. I know you guys are pretty familiar with these simple commands in CSS. So we want our text to be centered on that button, and boom, we've got it looking how we want it here. So we're building our prototype pretty close now. This is preset already. It's got an ID tag, and it links down to the Flower packages part of our page. So we've got this, and actually it's not too broken here on desktop, but we do want our text to be centered. And then when we go to a mobile screen, you will see what I'm talking about here. So when we go to mobile and go down to that section, we see our Flower packages title. Then we get an image, and then our text, and then an image, and then text, an image, and text. Pretty basic, really good way to organize it. The issue is when we go to our broken one, we see this image and text side by side. We get a text taking up a whole row. We get an image taking up a whole row, and then we get image and text again. So we really want to try to clean that up for the user on the mobile side, make it a little more friendly to them, make it appealing to them. You don't want your users getting all confused on what they're trying to read. So how we do this, let me open that back up. So the reason that's causing us an issue actually is because we've got, if you look at the code, we've got our container, row, a column, Flower packages, that's our title. Then we've got another row, a column 6, and we've got an image, and then a column 6 and a card body. So we've got that set up. Then basically what we're doing here is we're flipping it. So we're doing text image, and then we're setting up the first type of setup again for the last one, a row, column 6 image, column 6 text. We're using cards for these as well for the text, just to contain it much better. It's much easier. You can always use Bootstrap elements. You don't have to use the entire setup. You can always pick and pull from parts you want, always implement them into your code. It makes it a lot easier to hit that responsiveness mode, keep your content all together if you want it. So the first thing we're going to end up doing here is looking at how we set this up here. So we've got our picture and text, and we want these to sit on top of each other. So all we're going to do on this is when we hit that mobile side, we're going to do call-md for medium and 6. And we're basically going to do that again for our other column. So this means every time we hit that medium screen, we're going to be at 6. So now when we go into this portion here and do the responsiveness mode, we can see that it will always stay 6 and 6 on tablet all the way down until we hit small, where it will hit 12. If you preset your columns, they will go down to that length until you don't set any more. And if you don't set any more, it will automatically make it a column 12. So you don't have to set your column 6 here, column small 12 here, because you're already setting it as 6 here. So once it passes 6, it will automatically distinguish it as 12, which is the automatic column spacing number that it's preset to do. So we've got our stuff set up there for our first one. Nice. Now we want to do it for the second one, where we want the picture on top and then the text below it. So to do that, we're going to use that little D block that we were looking at earlier. All right, so if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a noted out section called flipped. This card right here will be our flipped card. So what we want to do on this is we want to do the same thing for the column. So call MD6. That's going to work for all of ours. So we can copy that, and we can adjust all of our columns for these cards as such. So we can make them all call MD6s, because that's exactly what we want our layout to look like. So that's set already. Change our other ones. So we always want our content side by side on tablet until we get small enough where it will just sit on top of each other. So we've got our flip section. From there, we want to do the D block. So D, MD for medium, and none. Oops. Wait, actually, so don't add that there. That is going to be its own column. Forgot we're adding something here. So we want to add this image on top before we do that. So we'll preset this image to sit on top of this before we even get into that. So we'll make another call -6. And what we'll do is make this a call -MD6. And on that, we'll make it a D-MD-none. And inside of that column, we're going to add an image tag. We're going to make our source, our SRC, equal to whatever we've got this image as here, because that's the one we want. So if it's going to be ./images, it's flowers3. And then we can also copy this because we want it to contain that card bootstrap shape. So now if we go back and look at it, and we look at it in mobile, we should see that image sitting on top of text and then that image again. So we've got the image sitting on top of the text and we've got the image again. Now we want to remove this image once we hit that, once we pass that medium screen, once it's no longer, they're no longer column 6s and sitting side by side, and that third one shows up, we need that to disappear. So we're going to go to that element again, and we've got the DMD none attached to this. So then we're going to go down to the other image that it's attached to, that's attached to this card. And then we're going to add a D-none. And then we're going to make it D-MD block. So once it's past medium, this image will not show up. Let's take a look. Perfect. And our third one sets up just how we want it because it was set up like the first. So now we are organized. We have our title. Then we've got our image, our content for it, image and content for it, again, image and content for it. Pretty basic, but really cool tool. So that's exactly when you would want to use the D block tool. You don't really want to use it too much. It kind of is a bad habit to manipulate your objects as such, but there are events where you need to do it. And this is a great example for that. So now we've got these cards and they're all messed up. So we could see here, they're all sitting on top of each other, one by one. And when they get to mobile, or I'm sorry, tablet, we've got two column 6s and then a third 6 sitting there below it. And then again. So we're giving this a multiple looks to our card based on the screen size. Sometimes you want your users to see many rows. Sometimes you just want them to see one item. I really suggest when making your pages responsive to a mobile view that you definitely keep the phone view to the max of one card per scroll. Trying to double up on cards is really difficult in mobile and it just doesn't look too good. But when you've got them one on one, it looks much better. And this would look even better if I were to center it. So to get this set up here, we've got our page here, and we want it to stack better. So this is all going to be column manipulation. So we are going to adjust our content based on screen size using the columns. So we were going to make this first container row column in our cards with different rows depending on screen size. We're going to change that to a call -small-12. So every time these cards are shown on a phone, they are always going to have the entire container. They will never sit side by side. It will always be one in a row. Then we're going to add a call-MD-6 because let's say the user goes on it on their iPad. They don't necessarily want to see one card on this gigantic tablet screen. That really doesn't look good. So depending on how big your content is, you want to vary this to maybe call-4, it maybe showed 3 cards, or same again 2. It's all depending on what you want to show off and what your content is displaying. So right now, let's say we want to make the tablet show 2 cards in a row. So it's call-6 for the MD. Then we're going to do a call for the large. We want 3 cards to show it, how they were on the other one, 3 per row. We can go ahead and take this and add it to every column now. And basically, they will adjust accordingly per their number. So you guys are familiar with the numbering system. 12 is the largest, so 4 will take up 3, 6 will take up 2, 12 will take up 1. So once we do that, let's check if that works out. What did I do here? Oh, I set the call, the last one as a call 4. You need to set it as a call LG4. All right, let's take a look at it. That should fix it. All right, sweet. So we've got our large screen showing our column 4s, 3 in a row. We've got our tablet view showing 2 per row. And these are different rows. So I know that looks weird. I would add a 4th card. If you were going to build a site, I definitely wouldn't go with this. I would maybe move this to the center, or add a 4th content here to make it look a little better. But these are 2 rows, so that's why they are adjusting accordingly. If I were to all throw them in the same row and make them column 4s, you would see this push up here. You would see this slide right, and this would push up. And then for our mobile, we want just 1 card. And we get just 1 card. So now the last part is our about, and it's for the store owner. Her name is Lily Rose. And she really wants to have a good looking site when people go see what she's about. So when it scrolls down, you'll see in mobile view, it's her image and it's really big. It's got her name, all this content, and these images are the same size. So when we look at it over here, it's really messed up. The images down here are all missized. We want this image to be bigger. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. So if we scroll down on our index.html, we will see our about responsiveness section. And it's got our container, a card, a row, a column -4 with an image inside of it, which would be the Lily Rose profile image. And then we've got a column -8 with a card in it with all of her content. Then below that, we've got 3 images added, which are really missized. So let's get working on how we're going to fix all of this. So the first thing we want to do is make this image big and to the top when we're in mobile view. So to do that, again, we're going to do a call -small-12. And from there, we will add we can remove this, sorry, call -medium 4. That way it sits a little on the side still, but it'll look big on tablet. And then we're going to add a call -large 4. Then we're going to look at how that's setting up there. All right, sweet. We've got our image all big. That's set up, but these are really misplaced. So we want those to always sit inside of there. So to do that, we're going to go to these and we're going to hard code them with a width. And when we hard code with a width, sorry, it's equals. I like to use percentage because it will scale to the screen's percentage. it is a much, much better way to scale your images than not, because it will definitely keep the consistency of what you are going for. So 75% on my desktop will be the same on 75% on mobile to their view. It won't blow up all in their face. So we're going to hard code that right in there. Whoops. Perfect. So now let's take a look at them. They look much better. And then when we go to mobile view, we see everything lined up perfectly on her little about. So that is the end of my lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it, learned how to make a cool little flower shop, make some hero images and buttons responsive using dblock